I'll just introduce myself. Hi there, I'm Della. I am so excited to be going through this masterclass with you this morning. It's a beautiful Friday. It's sunny where I am. And this masterclass is meant to really transform the lives of people who are just getting started on a remodel. If you've just bought your home and you're trying to figure out what you want to change about it, get to know what its parameters are, and set yourself up for success in a remodel, then you're in the right spot. This is designed exactly for you. But maybe you're in the middle of a mid-century remodel. You're kind of taking on one project at a time or a whole bunch and feeling a little crazy. If that's the case, this is intended to help you out also. And then I've got a third cohort of people I often help. A lot of times people come to me because they bought their house 20 or 30 years ago when their kids were small, and now they're grown, gone, out of the house, and people are trying to reevaluate where they are in their home, what they want to get out of it. Here's the thing, if you're planning to do any more work on your house, then I encourage you that this is the right class for you, because we're going to go through some of the essential first steps that you must take to set any remodel up on the right foot, to set it really going in the right direction. It's super important, and I know that you will get some value out of this class. All right, I'm seeing people's names come in. I'll go first and introduce myself. I'm Della. I'm talking to you from Madison, Wisconsin, and my ranch was built in 1952. Totally builder grade, the most simple house you can possibly imagine. It's a little rectangle, doesn't have so much as a brick decorative knee wall across the front, but I love it. I'm hearing, okay, let's see, we've got a bunch of people saying hello. Mark is in Madison. Hi, Mark, 1959. Oh, that's fun, because as they go a little later, they tend to have a bit more mid-century personality. I see Jason calling in from Orlando, also 1959. I wonder what the differences are between Wisconsin mid-century and Orlando mid-century. I'd love to see an image of your house if you wanted to send me a picture on Instagram direct messages. I'd be delighted. I see Jenia, your mid-century house is in Madison. Hooray! I'm glad to hear so many people from Madison are joining me. Let's see, I've also got Elizabeth, St. Louis. That's awesome, 1957. Yeah, you're probably right on the cusp between the early post-war push and then starting to get into more bold mid-century designs. Denise, hello. You live in Wisconsin outside of Madison. Your house was built in the 60s. That's great. Yeah, Jenia, your house is 1964. That's great. Kristen, 1957 ranch in South Central Kansas. Awesome. And then, oh, we've got someone, 1952, my year, Omaha, Nebraska. That is really neat. So I really wonder what the Plains states, what I think of as out west, because everyone sort of centers themselves in the middle of the country. I'd love to see examples of all of your houses. If you want to reach out to me later and share them, I would be delighted to see them. But I think we're in a really great place to get started. I obviously love talking about mid-century design. When I bought my own ranch 3 years ago, I started to look into the history of mid-century houses, and particularly the kind of builder grade, everyday ranch that's built all across the country. I started an Instagram account, MidMod Midwest, to focus on specifically builder grade houses around myself, because I feel like so much of what we see online is really high-end design and out west in California. Oop. This is my puppy, Roxy. You can just see her shadowy face. And since I expected she would come in and bother me, I've prepared an almost empty peanut butter jar to bribe her to go away and not distract us. All right, bye, Roxy. All right. I was really delighted by how people got excited about the Instagram account and shared their stories with me, and I was able to feature a bunch of neat houses around Madison. As I researched more of the history of Madison, Wisconsin specifically, and our mid-century history, I learned about the huge influence we have here from our neighbor, Frank Lloyd Wright. And I wrote about that for the paper. I talked about it on public radio. I started giving talks at our local libraries on how people could perfect their ranch houses. And more of my design business started to focus on mid-century homes specifically. Finally, I started a podcast this fall, MidMod Remodel, where I help people match their mid-century homes to their modern lives. So if you know me from any of those media, hey, good to see you here. If this is our first introduction, then hi. I'm Della. I'm an architect specializing in residential design, and I am a mid-century enthusiast. Now that we've gotten to know each other just a little bit, I'm going to switch into a slideshow presentation so that I can show you some things and talk over them and make sure that I stay on target and on time and give you all the information that we want. So I'm going to pop out of the comments. If you have questions as we go along, Go ahead and keep writing them down, and I will get to them sort of at several phases throughout the process. I'm manning this myself, so bear with me here. But let's get the slideshow up and running, and we will begin. I'm going to turn my face off. All right, there we go. We won't be distracted. I want to start with 3 basic truths of mid-century remodeling. And the first is this, that it is never too late to pause, refocus, and make a plan for your remodel that will transform the process and your home. So wherever you are in the process, if I'm catching you right at the beginning before we've even gotten started, then hooray, you're going to get off on the right foot from the start. But even if you've lived in your home for a while, you've been making changes as you go, if you haven't taken the time to pause and really get to the why behind your remodel, then doing so right now will prove invaluable. I'm going to emphasize this again and again throughout this masterclass. This first phase of planning is essential, and it gets skipped way too often. The result is a tragic number of remodels that end up stressing out their homeowners, going over budget, and then not quite satisfying in the end. I don't want that to be you. But don't worry, it doesn't have to be, because here's the second truth. Everything I'm talking about right now is 100% doable. You don't need to be a genius, a natural designer, or even some hyper-organized super person mastering all of the checklists to get a great remodel. You don't need to quit your day job to do this either. All you need to do is take your plan in the right order, one step at a time. And here's the third truth. Planning a remodel, this whole process, will seem overwhelming if you feel like you have to do all the decisions at once. Every detail and choice in a whole remodel project stacked up on top of each other would make any grown man or woman want to sit down and cry, or quit, or just hand the reins of their project over to some unfair person, someone who seems authoritative, the first contractor who comes along and says, sure, I do kitchens, I'll give you my special, you'll love it. That happens way too often, and it really breaks my heart. Let me reiterate. Planning a remodel will overwhelm you if you feel like you have to do all the things all at the same time. But spoiler alert, you don't. Today, we're going to walk through the pre-design phase of a remodel that everyone should take time for to set you up for a remodel that will seem easier and go more smoothly at every subsequent step. All right. I want to start off with a compliment. Oh, actually, I'm going to start by mentioning that I've been throwing myself into prepping for this series of masterclasses all week, and of course, I've managed to get myself sick. So bear with me if I cough a little bit or if I take time, like right now, to sip my tea. I promise the only thing I can infect you with through the computer is enthusiasm for mid-century ranches. The first thing I want to do after apologizing is start with a compliment. Good job to you for choosing to live in a mid-century home. These sturdy little houses are just absolutely the best. They're right-sized, updatable, and charming. They're much more closely aligned with the way we live our lives today than many older homes are. But of course, they still need a little tweaking. I thought I would just kick this presentation off with a quote from Alan Hess, who literally wrote the book on the history of ranch houses in America. And he said that a ranch house matches the philosophical potency of the bungalow, outstrips the brownstone in numbers, and challenges the log cabin in mythic power. Ranches are really America's house. So let's get right to the goods. The biggest mistake that people make when they remodel is something that you can avoid. You don't have to make your own life harder. That number one mistake is people jumping the gun. They take their remodel process out of order and end up stressing themselves out because they haven't set the proper foundation for their remodel. The concept I like to use here is focusing an old school camera. You start with a big fuzzy picture that slowly resolves into detail, and it keeps the whole project coming into focus at the same rate. The same idea applies if you were trying to sketch something. If you start with a detailed part in one corner and then work your way across the page, you'll likely run out of room. Instead, start with a pencil sketch of the whole thing and then work out the details one by one together. Otherwise, you're pretty much guaranteed to make commitments to one part of the project that will step on your own toes in other areas. That might mean you cause yourself structural problems, have layout conflicts, mismatch your materials, or just spend your whole budget on a few elements that weren't even the most important to you and then have to stick a pin in the project and save. I see this all the time, and it's nearly all a mistake. Look at it this way. Executing your remodel has to happen in a particular order. You put up a new stud wall first, hang drywall, paint it, and then put the furniture back in place. I mean, I guess you don't have to do it that way. You could pile all your furniture in the middle of the room under a tarp and work around it. But A, no professional would advise that, and B, I can almost promise you it won't go very well. The same is true about the order you plan your remodel in. So do yourself a favor. Start from the beginning. If you were to give yourself just 1 week to really dig into why you want to remodel, what you want to remodel to change about the essence of your home, not superficially, but really in its essential nature, you will find that this is tremendously valuable to you. Think about what you want your home to feel like, what it needs, and then take another look at what other similar homes have needed before you really set the wheels in motion. I'll come back to this in a minute, but here at the kickoff, or the reset of your remodel, I want you to ask yourself some serious questions. Ask yourself, what does my home really mean to me? Is my house helping me live my life or making every day a little bit harder and more challenging? What do I need to change about my house, and what do I just want to change? And above all, keep asking yourself that existential why. Fundamentally, why do you want to take on a remodel? Why are you planning this disruption and expense? Why? I promise this thought process will be worth it. Think about the lifespan of your home. Think about how much time you spend there. You sleep, wake up, and spend a part of every day being affected by this space that's around you, that you choose and that you make for yourself. It matters. Okay, maybe you're thinking, all of this seems like a lot, and you'd rather just go play with Pinterest for a while more. Or, other people have perfect natural taste. It's only natural that their remodels turn out perfectly, but you don't, so what's the use? Maybe you're thinking you can handle planning a room and decorating it, but you don't know where to start on changing the layout for a whole house. You'll just go find an expert. Or maybe you're feeling like, what's the value? If you can't afford your dream remodel, then is any of it worth it? And all I can tell you is that it is. You can get this done. All right, now that I've been flashing slides at you for a while, let's get acclimated to this masterclass idea. I'm going to do about 45 minutes of talking at you here. I want this to be as action-packed as possible for you, so I may err on the side of throwing a lot of ideas at you pretty fast. If you're trying to take notes and it starts to feel like too much, don't freak out. Feel free to have your computer take screen captures of my slides. I'll have a slide for most important things I'm going to say here, so that should give you an overview of the presentation. Or if you want to come back to any of this again, or share a part of it with your partner, for example, I'll send you an email when we're done with a link where you can watch the video again over the next few days. So again, if you miss something or you want to loop in your spouse, partner, or someone who will be involved in your remodel decision tree, feel free to do that. Now it's time to focus. I've been going over some big pictures ideas, and now we're going to talk about details. I want you to shut down your distractions, close the other tabs on your computer, I see you, and we'll get down to brass tacks. We've got less than an hour to win at your remodel, and we can do it. My goal for you is that you should walk away from this masterclass knowing, understanding the process for setting up a truly custom home update. While everyone else is out there making the same old mistakes, you are going to take charge of your own remodel. I'm going to switch back to video just for a moment so I can ask you this. I want you to make a commitment in the next 24 hours, sometime this weekend. Take 10 minutes and just ask yourself why you want to change your home. For bonus credit, if you're going to be remodeling with a partner, ask them the same question and compare your answers. Do they agree? If they don't, you want to put a little bit of work in to make sure that you can get onto the same page with each other about this. All right, let's go back into the slides. All right, let's see where I am going for here. We are going to ask each other a few questions. Do you have trouble keeping your remodel ideas organized? If you do, I'm sure that you are not alone. If you're feeling overwhelmed by the scope of your project, I can help you out with that too. If you're struggling to find time and the budget to do everything you've got floating around in your mind, again, this foundational step of planning your remodel will help you out. My friend, you're not alone, and I totally get where you're coming from. Because here is my house. As anyone who follows me on Instagram knows, my house is very much still a work in progress, but it's also a project that I'm delighted with and confident about. I've planned a trajectory for myself, and I know I'm working at the right level. If you look at this, you can see the house on the day I closed and what it looked like earlier this winter. The very first thing I had to change was that green paint was not only not my favorite color, but it was peeling and it had lead underneath that was being revealed and exposed to the environment. Not safe. So I did a massive hazard safety proof DIY paint job of the place. And then I went ahead and closed in that breezeway that separated the house and garage to create a mudroom and extra storage space for myself. And I've done a lot to warm up the entrance, putting up big house numbers and adding some fun sort of modern fusion details to the mid-century era house. The funny thing is, I had already been working as an architect in residential design for more than a decade when I bought my own mid-century house. I'd helped more clients than I could count through the process of designing their ideal home, sorting through contractors to get the job done, and managing all the nitty-gritty details of an approved general contractor-led construction process. But somehow that didn't translate to planning my own do-it-myself project on a moderate budget as well as I had assumed it would. When I bought my ranch, I stopped working on some of those high-end, high-touch custom remodels and started devoting more and more of my practice, now all of it, to helping other owners of modest mid-century homes make the kind of remodel updates that I was taking on myself, the right tweaks to match their mid-century homes to their modern lives. And it was interesting. I started to see I was feeling the exact same overwhelm that I saw in my new design clients. They were having trouble keeping on top of maintenance, making decisions, choosing what order to take on projects, coordinating subcontractors, and just finding all the time and energy for every project they wanted to take on. But having worked on this myself and helped other people through the process, I can safely say that I now know where most remodel projects go off the rails. And it happens right at the beginning. Watching my new clients experience these challenges really drove home for me how often people are tempted to skip over the essential first step of a good remodel plan, and how much skipping it then ups their stress, increases their likelihood of going over budget, and makes them less satisfied with the result. My goal has always been to help my clients avoid that kind of feeling of dissatisfaction. But all of my design work was still focused on helping people with their design issues. If my clients were having trouble defining their goals and understanding their fundamental why, I tried to patch together a fix along the way. But really, that work isn't something that can be done after the fact or outsourced. Only you can determine what defines an ideal home for you and your family. So over time, I saw that I had to come up with a better way. I realized I could help more people than even my design clients if I could come up with a way to help highlight the importance of starting a remodel right from the beginning. And that's why I'm giving this class right now. I realized that I could help break the cycle of starting a project without a plan and then putting out fire after fire as you go along. I could clarify what each house needs before a remodel gets dreamed up to eliminate nasty budget surprises along the way. And I could help people underline what are the universal issues of mid-century ranches. So if you flip that on its head, you get an outline of what I'm going to share with you in this webinar. The 3 secrets to starting a remodel plan that will work for you. The first is that the only sure way to be happy with your remodel is to plan the whole thing around what you really want and need. The next is to know that one size does not fit all. When you know that your house has unique conditions and qualities, you can know where you're starting from and plan your remodel around those. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Your mid-century house shares common characteristics with many other homes built in the same place or time period. Learn from their successes and failures to make your own planning process easier. So here's today's game plan. We're going to talk through how you can ask yourself the right questions to kick off your remodel. Then we'll talk about what you need to know about your own home and why in order to be the driver of your own bus here. We'll talk about the basic characteristics of mid-century homes and why they should matter to you. And then I'll talk about how you can work with me if you want more help going through a step-by-step process with your home planning process. Finally, I'll stick around at the end and answer any questions you might have about this talk, about remodel planning, or about your own home. Sound good? Here's the first secret. You need to put yourself in the driver's seat. Know thyself. Okay, I'm sorry, forgive my little joke about how it's all Greek to me, but the point is that this idea of knowing yourself has been around forever. But it isn't a universal concept because it's easy. It's a universal concept that the Greeks identified because it's hard. But You need to take this essential step at the beginning of your remodel if you want to like the outcome. This seems almost too obvious to state, but how much you love your remodel won't be driven by the dollars you put into it as much as it will be by the planning you invest. Don't plan your remodel for resale value or to match some ideal you see on TV or Instagram or in a magazine. Plan it for you. Personalize your home to yourself and the way you want to live your life. When you think about it this way, it's going to change everything. When you realize that you're planning for your own self, you're free to make choices that are really fun and personal for you. You can make decisions more quickly and more easily when all you have to ask is if you like it, not if it's right according to some universal principle of design. And you can focus your budget on the things that are going to make the biggest difference to your own life. That will really save you money elsewhere. So ask yourself, are you more focused on planning the remodel you're supposed to have or the one you really want? Keeping up with the Joneses has always been a thing, but it's really gone into overdrive with the advent of modern social sharing. It's now way too easy to look at a gorgeous home in a magazine, a shiny bright photo on Insta, or airbrushed for HGTV and feel like everyone else has it figured out. And since they do obviously know better about design than you should just copy what they're doing. You need that faucet or that picture frame or that brand of paint. But you don't. Only you can know what will really matter to you in the end. And the best way to control the cost of your remodel and feel satisfied with it is to make sure that it's tailored to your own wants and needs. So it's time to ask yourself what you and your family really need from your home. When you prioritize the spaces you use on a daily basis, the activities that you want to support, and think about things that will help you have the life you wish you had, you're ready to plan a remodel that you can really love. Plus, you can control the budget this way. Remember how I said focusing on what you want will help with your budget? There's one more element to that, and that is to avoid surprises. Being the expert in your own home will help so much with this. Now, so many people plan out their absolutely ideal dream remodel filled with goal-oriented Pinterest boards full of Atomic Ranch and Dwell magazine features. And then when they call a contractor for a bid, they run into a wall. They find out that the roof needs replacing and the furnace is just 2 years from kaput. Well, there goes their master bath budget. But here's the thing. As a designer, I tend to see problems as challenges and challenges as opportunities. For example, if your roof needs replacing, that will cut down on the added cost of a small addition or a change to the roof line. You can work with that, especially if you know it from the beginning, right from the start of your planning process. And even if the news isn't great, getting it from an unbiased source before you hear it from someone who wants to charge you money to solve the problem will be an advantage. Okay, I'm sure you're thinking, Della, I'm not an expert. I don't know as much about wiring as I should or what kind of a structure I would need. I'm not an expert in the building code. I don't even have a designer's eye. All right, that's okay. When I say expert, I mean that you need a conversational knowledge of your home. It's like learning just enough of a foreign language to ask for directions, order a vegetarian meal, or politely greet strangers before you take a trip to a new country. Sure, it's work, but it's not impossible, and it will transform the way you feel about the whole experience. So I'm not asking you to become a master plumber to plan a remodel. I just want you to feel as prepared as you can before you start. By getting ahead of the common home maintenance, building code, and other technical issues that are going to come up in a remodel, you won't have to put out emotional or budgetary fires the first time you get an estimate. And here's the good news. You don't have to do this on your own. You can call the city, ask the builder's desk about your house. If they're busy, make an appointment to call back at a later time, but I think you'll find that the guys and gals who work for your town will be pleasantly surprised to find someone asking for their advice before they make a mistake that violates the code with their plan and need an emergency variance. You can also rely on hired gun experts. A competent building inspector is an invaluable ally in this process, and you know he or she is working for you, not on commission. If you do have specific issues in your house, like water in the basement or faulty wiring, you can call in a plumber or an electrician, but ask them strictly for a consultation at first, not a bid. Also, feel free to reach out to your friends and loved ones. Even as an architect with 10 years of experience, when I have a maintenance questions about my house, I call my dad. And my little sister, who's a doctor and very home-handy task-averse, she calls me. So why bother with all of this? Here's the thing. I don't want you to get pushed around, because the most common failure mode in a typical remodel is for the homeowner, that's you, to get pushed around by a contractor, a supplier, or even a designer like myself with a big personality and a preference to do it the way they usually do, rather than listening carefully for your needs. That's not to say that I think everyone you ask for a bid is an unscrupulous huckster out to trick and overbill you. Quite the opposite. Most contractors are great folks who just like to make houses work better. But they still have a vested interest and a perspective on the project that's different from your own. The bottom line is that knowledge is power. Something I want you to be very aware of is how you feel when you interact with people. If you need to learn more to build confidence, take the time to do that. And also pay attention to how you feel when you start to interact with people who might help you with the work on your house. How do they feel? How do they make you feel when you ask a question? If you feel like they're giving you the runaround or brushing off your questions, take note of that. You don't want to deal with that person later when they're on deadline and under the gun for a budget. By getting a handle on what's going on with your home's basement, attic, and mechanical systems before you kickstart your project, you'll be able to take the lead and plan from a place of confidence. Remember how I said you weren't alone in this? I mean that really sincerely, too. There are 15 million ranches that were built in the US in the post-war boom years. There's just no need to reinvent the wheel when you run into a knotty design problem or a knotty pine siding problem. The key is to play to your home's strengths and to know what its weaknesses are likely to be. Now, I'm no preservationist. I don't think we all need to be living in vintage-style museums, but we should work with the houses that we have. If you don't love mid-century style homes, why are you listening to me right now? If you love a mid-century style house, then I congratulate you on picking out a style of home that aligns so closely with modern life. You don't have to do much to bring a ranch from kind of tired and looking its age to the very peak of retro modern chic. But your life will go better if you stick to the mid-century period. Don't try to turn your house into a Victorian-style cottage. When you are working with your home style, you can feel confident to defend it against all comers. Don't let a kitchen designer, a big box store employee, or your own contractor push you into changing your home's potential character without your consent. When you know what you're dealing with, you can keep and improve on the good things and then feel confident to make changes that you have to fit your house to your own life. Before you start banging your head against the walls when you have a problem, look around for someone else who had the same issue with their mid-century home and solved it. Remember, there are 15 million of these houses out there, and they have so many common features. So the chances are that if your kitchen or garage or bathroom is bugging you, that you are not the first to feel that way. There are a few key issues in almost every mid-century house that just don't align well with modern life anymore. For one example, let's pick on the kitchen. Now, I love a vintage mid-century kitchen. My own house has these amazing grain-matched cabinet fronts, which I adore. I appreciate them every day because they make up for the fact that the layout of my kitchen, frankly, stinks. And that's why at some point I'm going to have to get around to updating it. It is on my list. The mid-century kitchen was designed to work for just one person, Mom. My own kitchen actually connects directly to the smallest bedroom with a door right next to the stove. Apparently so the lady of the house could keep an eye on a stock pot and a cradle at the same time. Now for me, that door is a nuisance that cuts down on the amount of useful storage area I have to work with. We need to adjust not just the surfaces of a mid-century kitchen, but the layout, because there have been substantial changes to the way we use kitchens today and who is using them. The kitchen has gone from a command center to a social center. We do work, manage homework, we hang out, grab snacks, watch TV, use the internet, socialize, and when we throw a party, everyone is in the kitchen. So let's take a look at a mid-century kitchen diagrammatically. Nearly all of the work surfaces face the walls. The modern craze for kitchen islands isn't just a fad, it's function. Working at an island or a peninsula means you can stand at the counter and do something without turning your back to the room and everyone else in it. Two people can cook and chat, or one person can make a meal while someone else hangs out in the same space. If someone needs to get past you, they have multiple ways to go around rather than being cut off every time someone opens the refrigerator door. Here's an example of an original ranch eat-in kitchen. This one actually does have a small peninsula, but you can see that the cooking and eating areas are pretty functionally separate. Within the same footprint, you could flip a few things around, open the space to the adjacent living area and to the backyard, and transition it into a totally modern island-based kitchen. A few other kitchen thoughts. When I'm thinking about modernizing a mid-century kitchen, I shift away from the idea of base cabinets and wall cabinets above. I think a lot of wall cabinets can enclose a room, making a small space seem smaller. By focusing on counter space, without base cabinets above, but open shelves above them, you can get more open area. Then you can concentrate all your storage in one spot of full-height pantry shelving. Bonus credit if you embed the refrigerator in that storage wall so that it doesn't bulk into the rest of the room. Now that's not to say that I want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, although believe me, I am getting rid of that door to the nursery bedroom in my kitchen. But we can still carry forward so many of the ideas from a mid-century kitchen design. Practical, relatively inexpensive materials like Formica or solid surface counters paired with simple wood-fronted cabinets are as beautiful today as they were in the 1950s. Add a bright colored accent wall and a lot of natural light, and there's a recipe for a good kitchen update. So where does that leave us? Basically, how much you love your remodel at the end is driven by the amount of planning and the quality of planning that you put into it. But I don't mean that you need to quit your day job and devote yourself to nothing but house updating for the foreseeable future. I promise that if you take your remodel in the right order, the whole process will become easier. If you start from the beginning by figuring out what really matters most to you, you'll come up with a house remodel you love and not pull your hair out doing it. The trick, as I said, is to go in the right order and not get ahead of yourself. So I have a question for you. Let's jump back into the comments. Shout out to me some of the things that are holding up your remodel process. What's stressing you out the most? What is your number one conundrum with this whole plan? To get you started, I'll share a few of the most super common stressors that other homeowners just like you are having and have shared with me about their remodel processes. People have two kinds of era issues, for example. Some people are saying, how can I update while keeping the historic charm of the house? And other people are saying, how can I deal with the terrible 80s kitchen, 90s paint job? One recent member of the Mid-Mod Remodel Facebook community told me that their whole ranch had been done over in a vaguely Tuscan style. What? Another person put it very politely. My house was heavily modified in the 90s by creative people with more taste than skill. Oh dear. Other people are struggling with finding the time, the brain space, the resources to keep on top of a remodel. And still more are wondering about tight spaces. If they have too small of a kitchen, a single car garage and driveway, one bathroom for the whole family. If that's you, I see that all the time, including in my own home. Oh, someone said, can I talk about prioritizing or weighing short-term goals against long-term goals? Yeah, that's also a super common problem people have in this era. And it really comes down to having a whole plan for the project. If you start putting out fires right away, now of course some maintenance issues need to be dealt with immediately, but other things you want to just take stock and make sure you're looking at the whole project in mind before you start changing one thing that seems like a small project at the beginning. It may end up, as I said, stepping on your toes later down the line. So, why did you show up today? Maybe you've been waiting for the right moment to get started. Well, here I am inviting you to jump in and get started on your remodel now. This can be the year for you. Maybe you've been letting yourself get overwhelmed by the research and planning phase. I hear that. I love research. Actually, nothing satisfies me more, and that's one of the reasons I'm talking to you about this right now. But there does come a time when you need to stop dreaming and start doing. The best way I know to shift yourself out of spending too much time scrolling Pinterest or Instagram for neat ideas you haven't followed through on is to pause and ask yourself, what is it that you want your home to really be? Or maybe you're already mid-remodel, but it's gotten out of hand and you feel like everything is too much. This might come back to your prioritizing short-term against long-term goals. If you need to take time to make a whole master plan, let yourself. Then you can phase in one or several areas of your house at the same time, or in order. You want a proven system here. You want to set your remodel on track, and you want something that'll work for you and not take up all of your time. So I ask you, are you ready to finally start planning a remodel that's going to make your pretty good house into your dream home? If so, I want to invite you. You might like to join the Ready to Remodel program, which is a course I have worked up, which will help people step by step go through exactly the things we've just been talking about. Let me walk you through exactly what the Ready to Remodel program is. It's a 4-week online course, a step-by-step guide that will help you accomplish 1. getting to know yourself, defining exactly what your remodel should really do for you, how it will change the character of your home, and how it functions through a series of simple exercises and steps. Then get to know your house inside and out so that you don't get surprised by extra projects along the way, especially as you start to organize the budget. 3, learn the classic issues of mid-century homes and how you can adjust your house to deal with all of them, just as we've discussed today. Plus, there's a bonus module. Now, I really think you can get a handle on those first 3 things, or at least get started down the path within the time frame of the week-by-week course. But you aren't going to come up with an entire design for your remodel, or engage the services of a designer or a contractor and get bids to compare within that scope. But I don't want to leave you hanging. So the bonus module works over time to address how you pull that all together into a plan that can work for you. This course will begin on March 6th. And when it does, I hope if you're interested, you'll be able to go through it with me week by week and get your remodel going right away. Each week, I'll open a new module to the group with a video, slide lecture, and workbook components. If you prefer to just read a transcript, that'll be available as well. I want this to be easy, accessible, and bite-sized. Remember, I promised that this remodel wouldn't have to take over your whole life or require losing your day job. But if you can't follow along in real time, you can jump back in and play catch up anytime you'd like. So let's step through what these things are going to involve. In Module 1, and keep in mind, these are things you can also do on your own. We'll go through your project goals. I'll put together a number of fun and lightweight exercises to help you and your partner suss out what's going on in your home and why you might want to change it. Then we'll explore your home. We'll put together the packet of information that everyone should have handy to facilitate an easy remodel planning process. I'll walk you through how you can figure out your zoning and building code requirements and how to ask experts for help. I will strongly recommend that you get an inspection of your home if you don't have a current one, or you take a second look at your report if you've got it. We'll discuss calling in extra experts to consider things like energy efficiency, alternate energy sources, plumbing and electrical issues, landscaping improvements, and more. And for fun, I'll give you my tips on how to find out more about your home's history. In Module 3, I'll share a series of simple area-based overviews calling out the common issues you find in a mid-century home and how they can be addressed. We'll talk turkey about kitchens, sure, but also how front doors versus garage entries have shifted over time, how to tune up your front door entrance, how to improve connections between inside and outside, and where to find secret square footage in your home. Hint, it might be in the basement. And then the bonus module will pull it all together. I'll walk you through deciding if your remodel should happen all at once or in phases you can master plan over time. You can see how you can stay organized with a paper-based or digital planning system and how to set up a scope and reach out to contractors for bids that you can compare. I'll also share my project management spreadsheets that I use to manage my clients and my own remodel process. You can set up scopes, keep track of contractor contacts, and compare apples to apples bids with these spreadsheets. Join the club. Throughout the course, I'll be joining you and your fellow remodelers in a private Facebook community just for course members, where you can share your progress with the group to stay accountable and get great ideas from your fellow mid-century home updaters. I'll be there every week with a live Q&A video and regularly checking in for your questions and comments as we go through the course together. If that sounds interesting, it's going to cost just $347. I could charge an arm and a leg for this, but frankly, I'd rather be designing remodel solutions for you with the information about what you want and what you need for your home. Or even if you need no further help from me, I'd rather be helping more and more mid-century homeowners have a satisfying and happy outcome. $347 is about half the price of a mid-range dishwasher. I think you'll find that it's a worthwhile investment in your peace of mind if you need a hand held during your remodel process. It takes less than 5 minutes to enroll. You can pop over to the website. If you aren't seeing a link to it here in this presentation, you can find it at midmod-midwest.com/offer. And you can just click on any button in there to say you'd like to get started, get registered, pay for it, and be all set to go. So again, if you're feeling a little scattered, stuck, or overwhelmed, I want you to remind you that you already know what you need to do here. It's not rocket science. It just takes commitment to start planning your remodel the right way. And you've got 2 options: to keep working on your own and to figure out all the things, or to commit to take change. Now, in a few minutes, I'm going to be out of time and out of breath from walking you through all of this, and I'm going to open up the floor for your comments. So pop your pressing questions into the comment window. I'll give you a minute to get those caught up through the time lag by saying that I created this course because I believe that it's the best and the most efficient way to help homeowners just like you set up a remodel that will truly satisfy you. I can't be there to hold your hand physically, but I can metaphorically hold your hand and walk you through some of these absolutely essential steps to plan a remodel. And without taking on this phase either with me or with your own, your chance of loving your remodel is just that, a chance, a shot in the dark. With it, you are setting yourself up for success. And that is equally true whether you're planning to just get started on your very first home, whether you're in the middle of a DIY piecemeal project, remodeling bit by bit, or you're someone reassessing how you live in your home over time. Doing these things matters. Doing them in the right order will make your life so much easier. So, pop your questions into the chat window if you've got them, and I would love to answer them. I'm going to pop back into video so that I can make eye contact with everyone. Let's see what we've got. Oops, I better make the slides go away. Stop slideshow presentation. Great, back into the chat. All right, someone's asking, when you say research your house with the city, which department is that? You can call, if you Google Madison building inspections, basically you want to get to the building department desk. And you can actually go in, their office is in the big historic looking building on Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, and their office is down in the basement there. If you go in and talk to them, there's always someone at the desk. I think their hours are actually like 8 to 4 or something along those lines. And that might even be the best thing, to come in with the information you have about your house and ask for advice. The guys, mostly guys, and also a few young women who work there are really expert. They have seen it all. Many of them are actually sometimes at the desk and sometimes going out to do inspections in people's homes. And they know all the ins and outs of the code, what you can do and why, and also just what best practices are. So they are a wonderful resource to check in with before you get started on a remodel process, or particularly if you have a question of like, what is your setback from the road? If you feel like your house is about the same setback from the street as everyone else's, you might not be able to put an addition on the front of your house because you're right against your setback line. If you go down to the city, you can ask them and they'll help you figure it out specifically. The setback, by the way, is a zoning question, but the zoning office is right next to the building inspection office. They're literally 2 counters in the same open area, and they'll be able to walk you through everything you need to know. They're super friendly. And that's true in Madison, but I'm sure that it's almost equally true anywhere. If you're living truly in the middle of nowhere, you might not be governed by a building code, so you might actually not have that resource. But remember, it can feel like sometimes the building code is out to get you. It's not letting you do what you want, but it's all for good reasons, so that we can all live in a community together. We live in a society, and it's really a great idea to ask for the help that you need when you need it. Particularly if you're planning to DIY your remodel. Asking for expert advice from the building department is a free resource that is provided to all of us by our tax base, and it's just logical to take advantage of it. Anybody else have a question? Not right now. Well, you know you can always find me online at Midmod Midwest on Instagram. You can write me an email. My email is della@midmod-midwest.com. And here's the thing. I hope that this masterclass has given you some food for thought. Whether or not you feel like you need help from a course, I wish you the best on your journey to remodel your mid-century home. I know you're going to have a great time. All right, that's me signing off. Have a wonderful Friday and a great weekend.